So things aren't looking too well for the Golden State Warriors in a relationship with Klay Thompson. If you've been following me on this channel, my other channel, or on Twitter, I've been constantly discussing and been very intrigued by the ongoing discussions around Klay Thompson, his contract extension, and if he's going to finish his career as a Golden State Warrior or potentially go to another team. And now there have been new reports that Klay Thompson more than likely will be playing for another organization by the beginning of next season. As Anthony Slater of The Athletic has reported, even if the Warriors eventually approach Thompson with a competitive offer matching or exceeding the money in years, it has become increasingly conceivable, according to league sources, that Thompson will decide to leave regardless, searching for a fresh start in a different environment, detached from some of the built-up friction of the previous couple of seasons. Which is all very interesting because even though there has been rumors and speculation, this may be the first report that there has been an ongoing back and forth between Klay Thompson and the Warriors with contract negotiations, and it has still led to us at this point where he still has not signed any deal for the Warriors whatsoever. For those who are unaware, there's actually a new rule set in place to where teams can actually negotiate with players on their roster for contract extensions if they're due for one right after the NBA Finals, and that ended nearly a week ago, and the fact that this is the report that we received is very, very damning. Now, how exactly did we get here, and where can we gain some form of perspective from both entities? Well, just briefly, as we all know, Klay Thompson, staple for the Big Three out in Golden State that has literally revolutionized the game of basketball as we all know it, has played a huge role in the most success in franchise history as he has participated in 4 championship runs, 5 appearances in the NBA Finals, but more importantly, when it comes to the financial structure of all this, back in the day, he was actually the highest paid player on the roster before Kevin Durant came along. And even after the 2019 Finals, when he sustained a career-altering injury, the Golden State Warriors still decided to give him a loyalty contract and max him out completely with a 5-year deal. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, that came with a luxury tax bill that might have been really hard to consume, especially in the following 2 seasons when he wasn't even available to play basketball. Heck, even half of the 2022 regular season, he wasn't even available, and yet still getting paid upwards to $40+ million, which is all very important because where we are today, it helps us gain the perspective of where the Golden State Warriors will potentially come in terms of their ability to give him a certain type of contract that he's been asking for possibly over the past year and a half now. As I'm pretty sure you all are aware, and basically everybody who's been talking about this has consistently reported talking about how, hey, Klay Thompson, he's a big part of this identity, big part of the infrastructure. You give him a contract based off of loyalty. He still has a little bit juice in his legs, so you just give him whatever he wants. However, the Warriors are probably thinking in their mind, we've already done that. We gave him a max contract when he's coming off of a career-altering injury in 2019, sat through 2 years where he didn't play, and once he came back, though Klay Thompson is still really good, he is clearly nowhere near close to where he once was, and certainly doesn't justify getting paid $45 million last season. And speaking of last season, it got really, really ugly, as many of you all are aware. It got so bad that during the middle of the year, Klay Thompson was regulated to the bench, where he actually performed really well, picked it up towards the tail end of the season, but I still don't believe that the last 20 to 25 games is an accurate depiction of who he may have been, rather than just being on a really, really good streak. But unfortunately, even that hot streak couldn't carry over into a must-win playing game where he shot 0 for 10 from the field against the Sacramento Kings, effectively playing a huge role in why the Golden State Warriors didn't make a postseason appearance this year. Add on top of the fact that Klay Thompson is now 34 years old, and there's been several reports claiming that he wants a 3-year deal while the Warriors are only willing to give him a 2-year deal. So giving him a contract that extends him all the way to 37 years of age is definitely a massive, massive risk. And if you are the Warriors, you got a couple of contracts to sign in the upcoming years. The Warriors last year, their roster, they committed $206 million to a team this next season before they even signed Klay Thompson to the contract. They already have $174 million committed to this team. Now, be very mindful that Chris Paul's contract is not completely guaranteed, but even if he's completely off of the books, we're basically still talking about a team that is committed over $150 million to a roster that still needs to sign Klay Thompson, that still needs to give Jonathan Kuminga his contract extension, that still needs to give Moses Moody his contract extension as well, and a roster that is still fundamentally missing a lot of pieces that they desperately need so they can make the transition back to competing for a championship, or at bare minimum, just trying to maximize these last 2 years for Steph Curry. And in all honesty, I think this is where a lot of the hesitation comes from if you are the Golden State Warriors, because even though, yes, Klay Thompson is needed, he is necessary to this team, especially when it comes to three-point shooting, because if it's not Steph Curry, Klay Thompson is really the only player on his team that's shooting threes at any level of volume and accuracy. There are still a lot of things that this team is needing. They need a secondary ball handler. They need some interior presence. They need a little bit more athleticism to get downhill at the basket. Now, sure, some of the young players could address a lot of these concerns. Kuminga getting downhill, being that secondary scoring option that this team desperately needs, effectively also moving Klay Thompson to a third scoring option, which could be great for him in this new role, especially if he's coming off of the bench. B-Pod's a secondary ball handler. If he improves in those regards, I would like to see him be a bit more aggressive, and that's something he's going to have to grow into. And then you have TJD, who could provide some interior presence on both sides of the floor, finally give Steph Curry a lob threat that he's desperately needed. And this is something that a lot of people were talking about all year long with Steve Kerr, because he had potentially a lot of the answers to his concerns on the roster coming off the bench, but wasn't playing them. This also kind of goes back to Klay Thompson and the role that he would have on this team as well, because if all of this is true, Klay Thompson may be coming off of the bench, which who knows if he's okay with that either. And the thing that also really bothers me about this conversation about Klay Thompson regressing, especially when I see from mainstream media, is that people are still talking about Klay Thompson with like kitten gloves, and they don't want to sit here and be very honest and real about who Klay Thompson is at this stage of his career. Who am I to tell Klay Thompson who he needs to be? But I do also believe that this is an ongoing conversation about any other team that he signs to as well, because I hear like so many people talking about, oh, Klay Thompson, he can just sign with the Orlando Magic, or Klay Thompson, he can just sign with the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's going to fix their problems. Like, not really. Klay Thompson, yes, shooting 38% from behind the arc is great. It's amazing. It's sensational. It's still better than like 80% of the league. But part of the reason why Klay Thompson, going back in 2015, 2016, shooting like 42, 43, 44% from behind the arc was so special is because his ability to move off ball generated enough looks from the defense to where he effectively was kind of creating a lot of opportunities for other teammates as well, which made up for his inability as a ball handler and a passer and just a consistent shot creator off of the dribble. Once you lose that and you get closer to the pack of three-point shooters, your value just all around does see a noticeable drop, because there's nothing else offensively that Klay is getting better at, or at least sustaining at, that's going to pick up the value as he drops in his accuracy. And this is really seen with his attack at the basket from 0 to 3 range. Back in the day, he was attempting like 15 to 17% of his shots were coming between 0 to 3 feet. These past couple of years, it's been like 5 to 6%. Like literally back in the day, it was like 3 times as many shot attempts at the basket than it is right now. Klay Thompson's game isn't just a stat of three-point shooting. It used to be much more diverse. And this doesn't even talk about how defensively he's nowhere near the same either. The idea that he goes to the Philadelphia 76ers of all teams and he fixes a lot of their concerns, no, not really. And also, I think there does need to be a discussion about him operating in a system that allowed him to run much more fluid, a lot more off-ball screens and movement that went around in the Golden State Warriors system. Every other team doesn't operate like that. Don't really know if you're going to get that going to another organization. And so I think that's where a lot of the Golden State Warriors are banking on. We need flexibility financially. We've already given you your loyalty contracts. We kind of just need you to take a pay cut because this team still needs a lot more additions. And moreover, who you are as a player has seen a noticeable regression beyond just three-point shooting. However, I ain't gonna lie, bro. If you Klay, in my mind, I'm like, I just saw Andrew Wiggins. He getting 25 to 26 mil a year. I just saw y'all get Jordan Poole a max contract. And matter of fact, the more I think about it, isn't this what this was supposed to be anyway? Y'all decided not to trade the draft picks. Y'all decided that y'all were going to pay young players, pay us the big three, and pay the people in the middle like Wiggins and Looney. Y'all knew that. And so here we are now, and some of those young players, you ain't gotta pay. You don't have to pay Wiseman no more. Poole is off the roster for Chris Paul, who's gonna be coming off the books either this year or next, and you haven't had to pay Kuminga yet. So what's the holdup? I don't know if Klay Thompson thinking like this, but I would be thinking like this. You knew we were going to get here. Juggle a bunch of young players, juggle the big three, try to get some veterans in between. You knew what this was going to be. So why are you trying to pull out now? Like, no, come close to finish the job. Put my name on the dotted line. Bro, get me my contract. And at the end of the day, if I leave, good luck with B-Pod shooting 8-9 threes a game, because he ain't doing it. Good luck in general just trying to find a replacement for me in terms of floor spacing, because Curry was already struggling with this, and the whole offense is really struggling with this all season long. Yes, Kuminga is going to be a great secondary option, but he's not a shooter. He's just somebody that puts pressure on the defense in terms of attacking the basket, but that's really it. Good luck with trying to get Wiggins back out of his funk. Good luck with that. Like, at the end of the day, and I want to be very, very clear with this, Klay Thompson holds way more leverage than I think a lot of people are willing willing to talk about, even though he's not the same player that he once was. But also, I think Klay Thompson does need to be a bit more realistic about who he is. Because when July whatever hits, I think it's like the 6th or whatever, when that day hits and Klay Thompson goes into the free market, especially if these negotiations prolong for that long up until that date, I think Klay Thompson is going to be in a rude awakening for what's out there waiting for him. A 34-year-old wing who's regressed as a shooter, who isn't as athletic as he once was, who's regressed as a defender, is going into the market and looking for a 3-year deal for as much money as he possibly can make. Good luck with your time in Orlando, hoping that those young players can figure it out and that you're going to be in a system that isn't over dependent on you just sitting in the corner. Good luck with you going out in Philly and crossing your fingers hoping that Joel Embiid is going to be healthy enough and you have the passing and playmaking that has been surrounding you your entire career. Now, I do believe that Klay Thompson is an amazing player, Hall of Famer, but definitely anyone who believes that Klay Thompson is going into the market and getting a ridiculous amount of money just because he's the perfect plug and play player. Like, I don't really see how anyone can convince themselves to give Klay Thompson over $25 million a year. $25 million a year is in the ballpark of his teammate Draymond Green, DeJounte Murray next year. On his first year, his new deal makes around $25 million. Triple J makes $25 million. Whereas when we get to the $20 million mark, we're getting closer to around Marcus Smart, Miles Turner, Norman Powell. People don't want to admit it. That's where Klay is at this point in his career, bro. But when it comes to Klay Thompson, I love Klay. Easily one of the most enjoyable, funnest, I don't know if that's a word, but funnest players to watch over the past decade. And I want him to finish his career as a Golden State Warrior. To an extent, I understand, like, yo, just give me my bread. Like, y'all were planning to pay all of us anyway. But also, I do believe there needs to be a much more real conversation about who Klay Thompson is at this point in his career. But yo, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.